So after doing the video of my studio, of my radio station, I thought people might be interested in the kind of equipment that I have and I play around with. While this particular model is not a Part 15 transmitter, it's just something I have. It's something you just muck around, you play with sometimes. And there are various kits out there. They're starting to get very hard to get hold of now. There's companies like Ramsey who used to make FM transmitters. They've stopped making the kit. They used to be in kit form. They don't sell them anymore. The other company would be Veronica. They sell like kits. Panaxis was one, but that's no longer in business. And there used to be a company called Broadcast Warehouse used to make some as well. But they don't make kits anymore. It's just full commercial grade stuff. So kits are getting hard to get hold of, and so this one I bought from a guy in Canada. His name's Dave, Wavemuck Communications. So this video has been made in December 2016. So when I spoke to him a few days ago, he said that he was moving to the Philippines. So trying to get hold of some of this stuff now is probably going to get even harder, unless you know someone. So I thought I'd just do. It's not a review. It's just a look at the transmitter and just what kind of stuff is out there. So this one he sold me for, I think it was about 70 Canadian. So it was about $100 shipped from Canada, and is a 2-watt. Well, he's crossed it out, but 3-watt FM. This is a mono transmitter, and it's covers from 87.5 to 108 megahertz. So it covers across the band, and yeah, this is the manual that he's given, and it's just kind of says here that it's a output power of 0 to 2 watts. Again, we'll test this. We'll check to see what kind of power it does. So you can adjust it from 0 to 2 watts, but power between 12 and 15 volts. And he's saying if you use 15 volts, you will produce slightly more output power. So, and what else he said there as well? Okay, just about the audio. So this is a manual. He said he sells these as kits, but I hope he provides a better instruction manual if it was a kit, because this is like 4 or 5 pages, and then it just goes to tell you about the frequency selection, and then obviously gives you the most important part of giving you the DIPS codes, or the frequency codes. And in this instance, his logic is 0 means switch is on. So we have all the codes here for 87. Okay, so 87, even though he said 87.5, it's from 87 to 107 and... Okay, 108.5. So yeah, there's all the codes there. So this manual is important, and you need it probably to tune it. Well, you will need it to tune it, unless you want to guess the codes. And what I like about this one covers all of the steps, because like here in the US, while we cover it's 88 to 108, they miss like. So if you're on between like 88 and 108, they'll miss every like .2, .4, .6, .8. So it'll be like 97.3, 97.5, 97.7. I believe in the UK, if I remember rightly, they just go 97.2, 97.3, 97.4. So it goes all the way through the dial. So yeah, this is the parts list. So it tells you all the parts that would be needed to build it, I would assume. So yeah, that's the manual, and then here's the transmitter. Now, it came in this anti-static bag for obvious reasons, but there it is. It's a 2-watt or 3-watt, he says, FM transmitter. Just going through the board really, we just quickly skim through it. And so this is the antenna coax cable for your output to go to the antenna. You have your frequency switch here to set with the code, your on off don't know if you can see that. Yeah. And then your power adjust there he was mentioning about to drop it from 0 to 2 watts. Yeah, output transistor with a heatsink on it because it will get hot. I think this is the PLL chip. Obviously the board is a PL mono board, and basic phase loop lock, I believe that stands for, so it doesn't, the frequency won't drift like some of the cheaper kits, so kind of keep you out of trouble, so you don't go out and interfere with other stations by drifting frequency. You've got your power here for your 12 to 15 volts, and then he's put 2 cables on there. One says for mono, and then it says stereo MPX in. So this is a mono board, so if you wanted to transmit in stereo, you would need a stereo generator, and if you had a stereo generator, you would connect it to this. I'll show you something a little bit later, but that's the board. That's my hand, and that's the board. So it's a small board. What you're ideally going to do is you're going to put this in a box. There's a guy called V Westlife. He's on YouTube, and he has a broadcast warehouse transmitter, 1 watt. And what he does, he leaves it in the static bag, and then he has an old mailbox thing he has in his yard, and he just leaves the transmitter in there. It works. I would probably advise putting it in a box for the reason of just keep it safe, and secondly for some RF shielding, just to help with the board. But if you do that and you put it in a box, just move this out of the way, you get a little box for it. You can make it neat and tidy. See, I just on the front, just an LED I've put on there just to let you know it's powered on. And then on the back, it's got a BNC connector here for your antenna. You have your MPX. So I've got, like, you can put mono in there, but I think the way you set it, the audio would be a little bit low. Putting mono in there, the pre-emphasis wouldn't be right. So this is for the stereo generator, and then obviously your power here. So your 12 to 15 volts on a regulated power supply. And then I've taken the screws out already, but just want to show you inside really. And that's the unit. Ideally I could have put that, soldered it onto there if I had it's like a washer with a little bit of a stick out bit. It's probably like this one here, if you can see that. But yeah, that's the antenna coming from the board. The MPX for your stereo generator, and then your power supply. I've put a resistor on here because this is a 12 volt LED, but I didn't want to whack full power there and just burn the light out if I put 15 volts in it. But yeah, that's it there. So what we'll do here is we'll connect it up and just test it, and we can just measure the power and just see what kind of power output it does. So just remember, this is not a part 15 board or transmitter. It's not recommended for doing your little part 15 radio station. You will cover with a good antenna, a good mile or two coverage, and that's obviously more than you're allowed to do and you're supposed to do, but this is something I just have as a play around. But anyways, so I have a coax cable here, and now I've plugged that in, and I've got a Ramsey 50 watt dummy load meter, and this will measure the power output of the transmitter. Ramsey don't make kits anymore. These were handy little kits that they used to sell, and this will measure the power coming out of the transmitter. Uses a crude design of a computer heatsink and fan with their little circuitry on the bottom that measures the power. Obviously the fan will blow down because this will get hot. The more power you put in there, the hotter it will get, and then the fan will obviously turn on to cool it down. And yeah, and this is the box that will measure it. And the box is LCD display with LED lights, and the LED lights will just kind of inform you that you've got watts coming in, or milliwatts, or I can't remember what the UW stands for. So I'm sure someone will put the information in the in a comment in the link in the comment section. But yeah, so what we'll do is we'll plug it in. I have a power source here. This one is connected to a 12 volt power supply, so we make sure the connection's all connected. And what I like about Dave's board with the phased loop PL board, he's made it so it will lock quickly, so it will lock to the frequency. Generally I've seen boards take 30 seconds to lock up, maybe a little bit less, but you'll see here there's a LED there, and that's for the lock. But he's made it so that when you plug the power in, it's pretty instant, and the lock will kick in straight away, and then you're broadcasting. That's you on air. And so if we look at the power, we can see it's kicking out 1.2 watts. Yeah, it's not bad. That's in 12 volts, so it's in a good amount of power out for 12 volts. So let's disconnect that and let's fire it up with 15 volts, and we can see what kind of power output we get there. See if we get that 3 watts he mentions. So wiggle that in, so locked in. Yeah, so just over the 2 watts, not like 2.5 watts, so not the 3 watts specified in the manual. But then again, this is I think this is up to 3. I think this is on like 103.9. I think the frequency set for. Now, depending on where the band you are, you'll probably find if you went lower down the band, you might get a bit more power. You may find that if you squeeze or expand these coils, you may get a bit more power out of it. But for me, 2.5 watts, that's quite a lot of power. Wouldn't use it that much anyways. I would turn it down a lot, but for sure there's a nice power output for effectively $100. I've seen people pay for kits when Ramsey used to sell them, and yeah, they were in a bit more of a fancy box, but someone would pay up to $300 maybe for an FM transmitter. Admittedly, they were stereo, so if you wanted the stereo, what you do is you'd get a stereo generator, or an encoder as they're called as well. This one's got a stereo encoder in it. What you do is you put your audio input here, so your left and your right. Excuse my bad drilling, that was going to be for a switch I never put on. You put your DC voltage in there, 12 volts this one requires, and then this is the output, and this output will go into that MPX coax cable that you had. So on the back of that transmitter I had, so on the back of this I would connect that output to go into this box, this port, and that would give me my stereo. Well, this one's a little bit more, got a little bit more on it. So it has its stereo encoder here. This is a Veronica stereo encoder, and what you do is you obviously feed your audio in, your left and right. It goes into the board here, does its magic stuff, and then it's got an MPX out. So the MPX out goes into this, which is an RDS encoder, and this is what gives you that text on your car stereo to let you know the station name and possibly the track, depending on how you programmed it. This one's just got a serial port on there, and I've just programmed it with the station's name. I'm not going to worry about the song names and stuff like that. It doesn't really interest me. But anyways, if the audio comes in, or the MPX out will come in, and then it comes out and then goes into that little port. But you can get these. Not this particular model, but Veronica sell them on eBay. They sell a kit for $30, I think it is. Maybe $10 shipping. So for $40 you can get stereo if you bought one of these WaveMac transmitters, and you'd have a nice little radio station going, good coverage. Obviously not Part 15, but something worth a look at. But I thought I'd show you something a little bit different. I don't see many FM transmitter kits of a higher grade anyways. I've seen some videos, but I thought I'd just show you these stuff that I have. I have some more stuff I'll probably do some more videos on, but I thought I'd just share this one. So thanks, guys.